Yes, everything you just saw in the intro there was taken on a mobile phone, a Samsung S25. And in this week's video, we're going to be talking about taking architectural photography on your mobile phone. The pros, the cons, the do's, the don'ts, and some tips along the way. And we are in Sighisoara, Romania. We're in the old town, we're walking around. I'm going to be talking to you all about the pros and cons of photographing on one of these. So my mobile phone has recently been upgraded, and the one that I'm using this morning is the Samsung S25 Ultra. This has got a 200 megapixel sensor, 24mm equivalent wide, a 1.7 aperture, and actually it's got a large sensor for a phone. So I use this a lot for my Instagram stories. When I'm walking a town with workshop groups, for example, and I actually don't want to get out my main camera all the time, I use this. But there is selective scenarios where it works and where it doesn't. Of course, a phone doesn't have the dynamic range of a main camera on my main R5 body, but it's a great complementary camera where I can carry it usually just on my rucksack here, whip it out, and actually capture some nice images to share on socials. Great for street scenes with layers, like we've got this morning. It can be great for interior photography, with a caveat. And of course, the high resolution lets you crop a little bit too and edit in post in the phone before you post it to your socials. So actually I use a tilt shift on my Canon R5, and that's 24mm, and I use that 24mm focal length a lot. It's kind of the go-to focal range for architecture photography, and this phone and its standard zoom is around 24mm. Actually, usually between 18 and 24 depending on your camera and model and make and so on. The strengths of a phone are pretty obvious. Light, it's convenient, it's in your pocket, you can grab it quickly, and it's usually got wide angle abilities. But it does of course have limitations, those being distortion and in particular dynamic range. So I pick and choose when I use a phone and what to shoot with it, and tend to use it just for stories and quick grabs in good conditions or nice lighting like we've got this morning. So as you can see here, this device actually has a range of cameras. The specs I just told you about are for the main camera on here, and there is another way of doing things too. You've got the ultra wide. When you actually go to the camera itself, you can actually go to 0.6 on the zoom here, and actually that goes out to the equivalent of around about 13mm and 12 megapixels. So it lowers the quality, but it gives you more width. It gives you then about f2.2 as a kind of focal range, and that's useful for kind of narrow streets, maybe interiors in tight spaces, and maybe large structures up close. And of course, if you're using the 0.6 camera and selecting that mode in camera, you're going to be getting edge distortion in places, you're going to be getting stretching of verticals, and particularly a lot of flooring in images where you're standing at 6 foot high and you're using this phone at this height, head height. So do change up your angle when you're using that mode as well. Obviously on one of these as well, you do have another option, which if you go through the actual settings, when you've got the camera app open, you've got 0.6, like I just mentioned, 1, 2, 3, 5, and 10. And actually that's the zoom mode. So in this camera you also have the equivalent of 70mm lens, the ×3, and you've got 115 to 120 throughout that range. Just giving you quite a lot of focal length, but of course with a loss of quality is the caveat that as you zoom in, it's harder to keep it still, and also the quality loss is significant. But it's great for isolating details, maybe layered streets, cityscapes, and maybe some street candids using this. So don't be frightened to use it. In the newer cameras, they do tend to get better and better. So I mentioned about the zoom in, and actually the key part there is when you zoom in all the time, or unnecessarily, it actually softens the image slightly. So you want to only crop, not actually zoom. So actually you can get it a bit wider and crop it, it's better, and you actually lose less image quality than you would if you actually super zoomed in and then captured it there. Again, pick and choose your battles on that. Depth is what separates a snapshot from a photograph. On the streets of Romania, I look for layers, a foreground detail, building in the midground, something fading into the distance, like these streets. Your phone's wide lens loves this. In Sri Lanka, it's the road leading towards the towering temple. In Namibia recently, sand flowing through doorways. And in Azerbaijan just last week, it was railings cutting across a staircase, an imam off to one side. But you do have to be careful, particularly with ceilings, because that 3D depth flattens to 2D, but it does look wow factor. Find your layers and your image gains a story. When you bring up the camera app, you've actually got you tap to, to actually focus the image, right? But on there, you've actually got a little bar where you can actually change your exposure, brighten it and darken it. And I always slightly underexpose an image and then use the editing apps that I'm going to give you later in this video to bring that exposure back up a little bit and showcase some of those details. There's a little bar when you actually do this, you actually open it, you press to focus, and you'll see a little sundial come up, and you can actually use that to slide to the left ever so slightly, then lock it with the lock icon to actually underexpose the image. I usually select like the brightest part of the scene, whites, bright parts of a building. The reason why you want to do that is because actually you want to protect the details. And actually, if you think it's too bright, you'll overexpose the image and you'll lose a lot of those key details. You don't want to overexpose images. You want to try and keep it back a little bit and bring it up later if you can in those apps. Your phone's exposure slider is one of the most powerful tools you have. I'm pulling it down here, protecting those highlights, letting the shadows go darker and more dramatic. Try shooting it straight on first, nice and wide, and then I step to the side, tucking close to the wall and shoot at an angle. Same scene, different feel. You can also take advantage of a phone's different modes, and with that you're taking advantage of the multiple lenses that are on the back of the camera itself or on the back of the phone. For example, wide angle, macro, telephoto, they're using different lenses on here. So of course, at the touch of a button, you can use scene, the same scene, and actually just select the option that's right for it, or creatively use them to kind of get different kind of looks and feels to the result. So I'm going to move on now to some composition guidance when using a mobile phone. So the first tip I'm going to give you is to shoot steady when you're taking images on your phone. And that can be the use of a wall, like I just did there, leaning against it. It could be that you just planted your feet nice and secure, not moving as you're taking your shots, or it could be using your phone and resting it onto a surface or a worktop, for example, to capture nice steady shots. So just because you're using a mobile phone, it doesn't mean that vertical shouldn't matter to you. I still look to try and keep my lines upright and straight in my shots when I'm using my mobile phone. Even if I'm pushing a shot into a corner of a space or an alleyway or an interior, or if I'm looking at a facade of face, I'm always trying to keep my line straight. And if I don't quite get it, or I knock myself, or I move, I do try and use editing apps in camera and in phone to be able to actually straighten things up and align them. Of course, the other thing then to look out for is your perspective distortion. If you're going super wide, you want to make sure you're not getting too much distortion. Sometimes it can look really, really good on one of these, but other times it can look a little bit weird, or maybe too much flooring. So keep a lookout for those things to be able to frame and create your images and make them work for you. Leading lines works. For example, you've got tile floors, facades, maybe even graffiti or staircases. All of these things can elevate your images and make them look really decent on a mobile phone. Negative space can also help you. For example, use the space to kind of draw the eye up into a frame or down into a frame or into the center. Isolate a detail like a statue or a windowsill to kind of make the viewer look in a particular place. When you're shooting exteriors, think about the time of day as much as the building itself. Early morning and late afternoon light hits a wall at a low angle, picking out the texture in the stone and the render. Flat midday light just flattens all of that out. Don't be afraid to walk right around a building. The side or back often tells a more honest story than the postcard front. And look for contrasts, an old door against a modern repair, a satellite dish or a crumbling wall. Those little clashes of old and new are often more interesting than the architecture alone. Recently, I was back in Cuba, where I found myself shooting more interiors than exteriors, and that changes everything. Outside, you're working with the whole sky as your light source. Inside, the light becomes a single beam through a window or a doorway, and that's now your subject. Look for it falling across a tile floor or falling into the corner of a room. One of the main disadvantages of a phone is exactly this, dark interiors. Your sensor just can't handle the low light the way a bigger camera with a larger sensor can. So seek out that beam of light and let the rest go dark. Some rooms will simply be too dim to work, and that's one of the trade-offs of shooting on a phone. So another huge disadvantage about using a mobile phone in a city like Havana is, of course, theft. We had a participant on our main photo tour, had a phone stolen, and last year as well. So be super careful when you're shooting architecture on one of these in city centres like Havana. Most of my shots here are wide, around 24mm, but it's worth adding the occasional detail to your set. A tile pattern, a door handle, something small that grounds the wider shots. Ceilings maybe too, ornate mouldings, exposed beams. They can make a striking shot when you're looking straight up. Think about doorways and openings into a different room. A view from one room into another adds depth, even indoors. Finally, slow down. Interiors reward patience. As always mentioned on this channel, wait for someone to walk past that window or for the light to shift slightly as the clouds move outside. The best interior shots come from just standing still sometimes for a minute. You can also use the Pro mode on any mobile phone these days. You can actually go into the settings of the camera itself, go into here and actually select different modes. You can utilize any of the stuff that's in there. Along the bottom, you've got portrait, photo, video and more. When you go to more, you've got expert, raw, pro video and more, panorama. Utilize the Pro mode if you want to elevate your architecture photos with a mobile phone. You can actually fine tune things like settings, exposure and more when you go into that Pro mode. You've got creative control over many of the settings. So I'm going to give you a quick guide as well on quick editing tips for using certain apps and tools within those apps to make your architecture photos on your phone stand out and pop. So there's 3 apps I'd recommend to edit your images to pull them alive from your device, and that is Luminar Neo for mobile use, and then you've got Adobe Lightroom Mobile, and you've got Snapseed. Now Snapseed has been around for years and it's a great tool. It's actually a free download and there's loads of tools in there. But all of those 3 actually have some great tools, and in combination they make powerful images. The things that you want to look for when you're editing your images is verticals. You can straighten images and you can use tools in these devices to bring the image up, straighten it out, to pull it wider, to sort of straighten things and make it look nice and clean. Correct your verticals basically. Then you can change things like your exposure, your contrast, your blacks and your whites. And I recommend doing all of that using a histogram to kind of correct things and get it looking great in post. Finally, we can add some clarity, sharpening, or even some texture to things like stone, brick. And you can do mobile selections as well to be able to kind of fine-tune selections, part of the images, to edit part of them. So to make light pop or darks darker and so on. And I recommend in proportion doing some of that. Vignettes are a great one to add to kind of draw the viewer's eye into an image too. And finally, you can even do conversions into black and white or to bring images colour out more as well. Let's talk about the 3 apps I use for mobile editing and compare them and give pros and cons for each. Snapseed has some recent changes to its look and feel. It's leaning a bit more cartoony now and it's been on the block a long time. Its perspective control and alterations are unmatched in my opinion, and nothing else on mobile handles that as well. Lightroom though is where I do all my basic edits. My raw processing, my exposure, the fundamentals. I'm already paying for a subscription, so it's effectively free to use here too. The big plus of Lightroom is of course its ability to do masking. Can do really nice radial filters. You can really adjust colors a lot nicer than the other 2 apps, especially Snapseed. And that's giving me the ability to also sync it to the cloud and back to my desktop, as does, by the way, Luminar Neo. Something that Snapseed, of course, doesn't really do as a standalone mobile app. My newest addition to the toolkit is a fairly new app on mobile, and I love its creative edits and color handling. So these days, since all 3 now have really solid cataloging features, I'm finding myself using more Lightroom and Neo and less of the Snapseed. But for now, I'm keeping all 3 in my toolkit until Luminar Neo add that creative control over my perspective. So it's all about seeing then architecture, not necessarily about the gear. You can capture great images on a mobile phone. Why don't you try these tips on your next architecture or city walk if you're on holiday or something like that and you only have one of these devices with you. Me on this channel, I'm always capturing videos really and shooting videos and giving you tips and tricks about shooting architecture with a higher end camera and system and tripods and all of that. If you like what you see or you're on your journey and starting your journey, maybe you'll enjoy other videos on the channel too. Leave any comments down below if you've got some, and I'd love to hear from you about any other tips you've got about mobile phone photography for interiors and street. Until next time, see you all very, very soon. Bye for now.